Hey y'all, welcome back to Bee Free Builds. Today I'm sharing how I set up irrigation for my off-grid orchard. This project starts with one essential step. The first challenge was getting a well drilled. This represented a significant investment, but it's the foundation that will support both the orchard and any future development on this land. For now, the well pump runs on a portable generator that we bring out to the site. From here, 200 feet of hose carries the water up to our storage solution, a 5,000-gallon tank. I got this tank used, and while I'm not sure I'd use it for drinking water, it's perfect for irrigation purposes. The orchard sits on the opposite side of the hill from our well. This distance from the tank to the trees is at least 300 feet. Initially, the plan was straightforward. Connect a sprinkler valve and a timer directly to the tank. When that approach failed, I tried a solar-powered pump on a timer system. This showed some promise, but proved disappointingly unreliable. Experiments with both these solutions kept leaving my trees dry. After abandoning these solutions, I figured out that the simplest approach is usually the best. By running half-inch irrigation tubing down to the orchard and letting gravity provide the pressure, we found our answer. This hill has 20 to 30 feet of drop, so it provides plenty of pressure. Down the hill at the orchard, a battery-powered timer controls 3 separate hose lines. This setup turned out to be both simple and remarkably effective for irrigating these trees. This common irrigation timer worked way better than expected. It works on 3 zones for 5 trees each. These irrigation experiments started with just a handful of trees and now support 15 trees. Each tree receives water through a dedicated drip line, carefully buried beneath the protective mulch. The trees get constant hydration, while the mulch layer helps retain that moisture for extended periods. While these trees have thrived with this straightforward system, the journey here involved plenty of learning experiences. The well drilling proved to be the most critical part of this entire process. Without it, we'd be hauling water to this remote location, as the area doesn't get quite enough rainfall to support an orchard without irrigation. I worked with a local company that helped me pick a spot for the well and made the process very easy. I was surprised at how powerful these drills are. The land out here is really rocky and full of granite boulders, but they tore through it with no problem. The drilling crew brought their own water tanks to support this operation. Despite drilling more than 400 feet, the process moved surprisingly quickly. Eventually, this site may support a house or other structures, making this well investment even more valuable for the future. Once drilling was complete, they installed a submersible pump and a basic pressure tank capable of moving water up to our storage area. Currently, this runs on generator power, though we may consider making this solar powered at some point. I run about 200 feet of hose up to the tank when I'm filling it. Eventually, I'll install some pipe that goes from the well to the tank. That will be really nice to avoid having to haul this hose up and down this hill. Eventually, when this thing is permanently piped and powered, I can have this automatically fill the tank instead of having to come up here and fill it up at least once a month. I try to maintain it above half capacity, providing a buffer for the times when I can't visit the site. I installed 2 valves, one dedicated to irrigation and another for general water needs around the property. I should have noticed here that the water pressure wasn't that great at the tank, but that's a lesson I'll learn later. I had such good plans to use the sprinkler valve and timer to run the irrigation. I assembled it like I would sprinklers installed at home. I even had a Bluetooth-enabled battery-powered timer to schedule the irrigation on. This box was a nice little container for the whole system. This thing almost looked professional. From there, irrigation tubing had to travel several hundred feet down to the orchard. Working with this long, spooled tubing presented its own adventure. Getting it to lay straight proved more challenging than expected, especially unraveling it the hard way. After several tests, this system simply wouldn't perform consistently. The sprinkler valve required higher pressure to operate, so I gave up on this approach for now. If you have any insights into why this system failed or suggestions for improvement, I'd love to hear from you. At this stage, only 5 or 6 trees needed irrigation, each served by its own small drip line. The half-inch irrigation tubing weaved through this rough brush to each of the trees. The current solution proved elegantly simple. Gravity provides the pressure, and a basic hose timer controls the water flow. This approach has consistently delivered reliable watering for these trees over time. These timers are remarkably robust. We use a similar unit at home for gardening, and they typically last for a few years of regular use. The downhill run provides more than enough pressure to water at least 5 trees simultaneously. The hose timer allows for pretty flexible scheduling on 3 different zones. As the orchard expands, I may revisit the sprinkler valves, since the gravity-fed pressure might be enough to make them work. Getting water from the tank to the orchard reliably was super important, and finally getting this piece solved really opened up the next phase of the project. One last challenge I had to address before expanding the orchard was the wildlife damage to the drip lines. I don't know what was chewing on these drip lines, but every other trip, they were chewed up pretty bad. Luckily, mulch turned out to be the 2-for-1 solution here. They protected the drip lines from the wildlife and kept the soil moist over time. When it came time for the next phase of the orchard expansion, I was ready to grow from a single line serving 1 row to a system supporting 3 full rows. This meant laying out additional 1/2-inch irrigation tubing throughout the expanded area. By this point, I learned how to roll out this tubing straight without fighting the natural curve of the coil. The tubing isn't very expensive, and importantly, wildlife tends to leave these larger lines alone. Each tree gets its own drip line attachment. I provided about 5 feet of drip line per tree, allowing it to wrap around the base with room for expansion as the trees mature. The smaller drip lines are the ones that attract wildlife attention. Luckily, once I started burying them in mulch, I stopped having that problem. Now I rarely discover chewed lines, and the trees maintain excellent hydration levels. The drip lines provide plenty of moisture. I'll just have to keep an eye on how well they perform after being buried under mulch for so long. This irrigation system will continue to evolve as I learn more about creating truly dependable water delivery in this environment. The orchard is set to expand significantly over the coming year, so getting these fundamentals right matters enormously. If you have ideas for improving the system, I genuinely appreciate hearing them. Coming up soon, I'll be sharing the next phase of tripling the size of this orchard and introducing some nitrogen-fixing plants that will support the orchard's long-term health. Follow along if you'd like to see how this off-grid food forest continues to develop.